You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K26 with myself, Momunzi, and of course the legendary Coach Brendan Suhr. And we have the honor today of a man joining us on the show. And you know how I want to introduce this is when I talk to people, especially over here in the UK where I live, you know, they're like, why do you love basketball so much? Why do you love the NBA? So on and so forth. And I think there's a small category of players where if you show anyone, even if they've never seen basketball before, if you show them certain players' highlight reels, they will see the beauty of the game and just how amazing the sport is. And one of those players is Mr. Penny Hardaway, who's with us on the show today. Penny, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that intro. That was pretty cool.
It's an honor to have you here. I've been a big fan my whole life.
Thank you.
Yeah, I told my wife Penny that we're going to do this before, and she said, "Well, tell him we still have pictures hanging up in his house and his jersey and everything." I said, "I really don't think he gives a shit about that, honey. I really don't think so." But one of my greatest honors in the league of being in the league for 30 plus years was getting an opportunity not to coach you just once in Orlando, but twice with the Knicks. And two things about you: number one. I have 27 players that are in the Basketball Hall of Fame that I had the honor of being with. And I'm not sure if I ever had a combination of a player as talented and as smart as you. You're amazing. Yeah. Nah, and it was, Mo, one of the things about Penny is that literally there's very few people that if you said, hey, here's an idea that we want to use for a play or an offense or something like that. And you didn't even have to walk him through it on the court. He was so smart. He saw everything. And I said to myself, he's so good. He could really be a good coach. But every time I tell one of my former players that you could really be a good coach, they all get pissed off at me. So I never told him that when I was coaching him, but he's obviously become an incredible coach. And I'm so proud of him because of that. But talk about when you came into the league, Chuck and I were coaching in New Jersey. And one of the first games you ever played, you and Shaq came up to the Meadowlands where the New Jersey Nets were playing. And you beat us at the buzzer with one of the most infamous crossover moves I've ever seen on the left side of the court. I can still see it now. And you went in and dunked the damn ball. And you just, it was like one of those, we had played against Jordan. We had just finished a dream team with him. And I said, wow, that's something else. You remember the play?
I do remember that play. That was, Johnny Newman guarding me on the left wing.
Thanks, Johnny.
Shout out to Johnny Newman. But no, that was, to me, just getting in the league and just trying to get my feet wet and trying to become, something special. Special players have to make special plays. So that's something that God blessed me with. And that move was, I don't know if it was ever done again, but I knew Johnny was going to bite on the hesitation going left. And when he did, he gave me enough opportunity to cross him. And then the middle was just open. I know that's not a Chuck Daly defense.
We didn't exactly have our kind of defenders that we had. And we didn't have the bad boys there. So no one knocked you down going to the basket like we would have with Michael, But it was special. And I remember Chuck walked off and said, that guy's fucking good. Holy shit, he's good. Holy yeah. But when you played with Shaquille, it was a dynamic duo.
Yep.
What was that like with the two of you?
Yeah, for me, it started early. I played with him when I was in college, and they used to have these little games, East, North, Southwest games in Minnesota, and Shaq and I were on the same team.
Wow.
And that's when I first met him when I was in college, and then after he left college and went to the NBA for a year. The next year was the movie Blue Chips. I auditioned for the movie Blue Chips, and the director of the movie, his name was William Friedkin. He allowed us to play real basketball. And the late, great Pete Newell, I told him every time Shaq puts his hand up, that ball is going to hit it because I was actually auditioning for him because I had entered the draft in his second year, and I knew how special that would be if I could get with Shaq. And so I played with him all summer. And I rarely shot the ball. Every time he wanted the ball, I threw it to him to spoil him. And then when I got to the NBA and they drafted me, the rest is history. I knew the magnitude of being able to play with a great like Shaq.
And tell about draft night. Actually, there was a trade involved, correct? Because everyone in Orlando said, oh, we want Chris Webber. We want Chris Webber. We'll have these two big, incredible talents. And that whole thing was a facade almost to get the two of you together.
Yeah, well, what Chris didn't have was the opportunity to play with Shaq for an entire summer,
Right.
and I did. And I knew as great as Chris Webber was, he and Shaq would have been phenomenal, right? They would have been
Yeah,
awesome.
sure.
But I felt like Shaq and myself would be even better being a guard and being a big. Could be like the Magic and Kareem situation. So, yeah, that night in Auburn Hills, Chris Webber's
Wow.
basically at home,
Yep.
because he's from Detroit, and then I'm
Yep.
coming in, and then there was a reporter who told me if the Golden State Warriors, if Orlando picks Chris Webber and Golden State picks you third, you guys are going to get swapped for one another, and there was a trade, and it happened.
How about
Shams
that?
before shams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Right
Yeah.
before Shams.
No, I tell you what, and I think it was intriguing move for both franchises, but obviously better for the Magic because you guys a couple of years later made it to the finals. What was it like for you to get into the finals at such an early age?
I was aware of everything. You have to be a basketball historian to understand how to appreciate that ride because we were young, but I understood every step because of all the championships you guys won, the Bulls won over the last 8 to 10 years before I came into the league, and I went into the finals in my second year. I understand that winning wasn't easy, and then making it to the finals was extremely hard. But not only making it, but winning it is even
Yeah.
harder. So that was a magical, no pun intended, run with us. But I don't think enough guys recognize the moment. With me
Hmm.
being a basketball historian and understanding, I knew if you get there, you need to win it. That changes history if you win it,
Yeah.
because you could get back the next year. You want to win it the next year. But if you lose it, you're not promised to get back. And that's what happened.
You talk about playing with Shaq and that finals run in particular. I heard a quote from him recently, and he said that if you never got injured, you would be looked at as a top 3 player of all time. Is that something you think about or look back on, and what's your mentality towards that?
I agree with Shaq because that's the confidence that I had in my game. If I had no injuries, my IQ, my talent, my speed, athleticism, length at the guard spot, it definitely could have afforded me some opportunities to be in a conversation of one of the greatest to ever play the game. But the injuries happened, and it didn't go that way. But I do think about it a lot. If I stay healthy, what was the ceiling for me if I stay healthy? For championships and for, that notoriety of being a top 3 player of all time.
If you had the option to go back and do it all again, right? We've got all these advances in technology and medicine and so on and so forth. So you have the first option, which is to go back to the era in which you played,
Yeah.
or to play in today's era, which particularly as a scoring guard like yourself, with the rules how they've changed, so on and so forth. Would you prefer the chance to play in today's NBA?
No, I wouldn't change it. I like the era that I played in because I enjoyed playing my matchup. I enjoyed, we didn't switch a lot. You'd play your matchup for the entire game, and that's how you really measured yourself. And I'm not knocking today's era, but they're in drop coverage. I think if people would have played drop coverage against me, I could have averaged another 10 points.
Sure.
They don't play their matchup every night because they switch off. It's kind of hard for them to do that, and it's just a different game now. And I would love to play in this era. I would love to have, because it would have been fun. I wasn't a three-point shooter, and in our day, you left the three-point shooting to the three-point shooters, the guys that could really shoot it. You had your specialists, and then we did everything else. So to be able to shoot 10 threes a game and it not be frowned upon if you only make one per night, and
How many you putting up? How many points you putting up if you played today in your prime?
I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, I was averaging 23 a game, and at that time I could have averaged 30. I wasn't selfish at all. I was shooting 50% from 2. I was only taking 12 or 13 shots a night. Some of these guys were taking 25 to 30 shots a night. With me taking 25 or 30 shots a night, I really couldn't put a number on that, to be very honest. And I didn't say it would be easy, but to give me that opportunity to shoot 10 or 12 threes and shoot 30 shots a night in this era, hey, it would have been fun.
I saw Cade Cunningham playing for my alma mater, the Pistons, last week, put up 46 shots in the game, in an overtime game. And I said, wow, imagine if you ever did that. Well, first of all, none of you would have never done that. You
Right.
respect the game so much, and the other guys in the team, Shaq or, Dumars would Isaiah, they would have punched the guy out if he
Yeah,
took
no doubt.
46 shots. But he's a big guard like you, and I love his game and all that, and he plays with an interesting tempo and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. But I thought that was amazing. You're 100% right, though. The offense now, it's totally changed. Very few sets. You come down. We counted the other night in a real NBA Cup game, Penny, that one team came down 47 times and made 1 or 0 passes before a shot.
Amazing.
Imagine if your team at Memphis did that right now, right?
Oh, man.
That means you had an L that night because, we weren't sharing the ball. And
Right.
it's just a totally different way. And I don't frown upon it. I don't live in yesteryear. I'm just saying it's like you did. It's different. It's way different.
Yeah, there's only a few coaches that really believe in a hockey assist anymore or getting 20 assists a game. They used to be the bar. Like, hey, 20 assists or more, nothing under 20 assists to share the basketball. And that gets everybody involved. You get better shots. You get better rebounding position when you know where the shots are going to come from. You don't have guys averaging 15, 16 rebounds because they don't really know where the shots are going to come from anymore. You just one pass jack, no pass jacking it up. That's tough. That's why a lot of teams don't have an opportunity to win a championship.
And it's heavily in transition as well. Trying to just get the quickest shot available for a lot of these teams. You mentioned auditioning for Shaq when you were going for blue chips. Just to keep on the trend of the current NBA, if you were to be able to pair up with one player in the NBA right now to be teammates with them, who would that player be and why?
Probably Jokic. He's my type of guy. And that's no knock on anybody else like Giannis, KD, or anybody. Because he's so unselfish, he'll make me better, along with me making him better. It's twofold with him, right? He wants to win, and he's so smart that I could average 20 points a game. He'd get me 3 to 5 easy looks a game, maybe more per game, just throwing me open. Like, people don't even understand how to throw someone open anymore. They're obvious assists. Jokic is throwing people open. They don't even know they're open and getting them easy back. And he makes everybody around him better. So I would say Jokic first.
Do you agree with what people have been saying this past week or so, that Jokic is possibly the greatest player of all time? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't agree with that. I know he's the greatest in this era right now, for sure. And as great as Steph Curry has been, as great as KD and all those guys have been, because Jokic gets it done in multiple categories. He makes his teammates better. He brings it every single night. You'd never say one time, oh, Jokic dogged it tonight. I've never seen that said about him. Like, he just came out on the court and went through the motions. He never goes through the motions. He competes at a high level every possession, and he makes his teammates better. So I don't think he's the greatest of all time, because in an era where we were in, when they had all the bigs, David Robinson, Shaq, and all those guys, I think he would have had a hard time with those guys because they were mobile enough to guard him. The guys today in today's game can't guard him. So, but not of all time.
Just think about the finals with Shaq and Olajuwon, right? When you were in the finals. Talk about two low post centers. I mean, and Mo pointed out on a podcast we did recently where he said there's really not a low post center in the league for him to have to worry about. Like back then, it went from Ewing to David Robinson to, it went on down the line. Every night, every team had someone. We didn't have anyone in Detroit. In Chicago, really, I didn't. But,
I mean, you still had Rich Pitts in Indiana.
Right.
Guys
Good
like
call.
that. You got guys that were really skilled down there, 7'4", that could put the ball in the basket. Karl Malone, even though he wasn't a center, you still have to guard that. It was a lot of guys back then.
Also, he didn't have to go in. Mo had a great point also in that he has not beaten, except maybe for the Clippers last year, who won 50 games. He's never beaten a 50-win team in the playoffs, which was interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but I love the player. I love the player.
Oh, he is unbelievable. I mean,
love the player.
He's like MJ was back in the day. He could get MVP every year just off numbers. They'd have to just give it to someone else. Just have a better season.
Any of the guards currently in the NBA that you look at and kind of see yourself in, whose game do you like watching the most out of all the guards that are in the league right now?
I mean, no one plays like me, but as far as the guys that I respect, obviously Jason Tatum, Cade Cunningham, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's so many guys. I don't want to forget anyone because I love the entire league, but those guys come to mind right away. You're thinking about the teams that win, even Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, all these guys that bring it every single night and what we call put the backpack on and carry the backpack to work and then get to work. Those guys, it's not easy to do that on a nightly basis. So, you know, you got Tyrese Maxey in Philly who's really bringing it. He didn't come in as a point guard, but now he's a point guard. There's so many guys that you can name, but those guys come to mind right away that I really respect. Cade Cunningham, you know, big guard, guys that can just control the game, rebound the basketball, find people, and score it at the same time.
Penny, your shoe, since you came into the league, even to now, it's such an iconic brand, which is
Yep.
something you have to be incredibly proud of, the brand that you
Yes.
created and stuff. What's it like where all of a sudden when you're recruiting a kid now to come to Memphis and all of a sudden, you know, you're not worried about NIL. He just wants one of your pair of shoes probably to, to come there. I mean, it's just incredible, that, that you're actually coaching young people and, you have your own brand. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a surreal moment. I know that word gets used a lot, but to be in the '90s era
Yeah.
and to still have a brand with Nike, I thank Nike for believing in me, staying with me, giving me the opportunity to have my own brand, and to be in college basketball where all these sneakerheads, all these young guys are sneakerheads.
Interesting.
They understand the magnitude of my brand, and to be their coach and to be coaching it's a pretty cool gig. Not only to be a college coach, but to be a former NBA player with a sneaker brand that's still relevant in today's times and coaching these young guys is pretty cool.
Man, the foam posits as well, like one of the most iconic silhouettes you have in the history of sneakers. If you had to give us like your top 3 sneakers of all time, with the colorways included, you got a top 3?
In my own,
Just any sneakers ever, but I'm assuming that you would
any
want to pick
sneaker
your
ever.
own. You know what I mean?
Obviously, I would definitely put the original foam posit in there for me because that shoe it came at the right time. We were in the playoffs playing against Philly, and it came out of nowhere. And I didn't think that shoe would still be relevant in today's time, but it is. It's the number 1 sneaker that I've sold. It's a foam posit, so that definitely has to be number 1. Number 2, I would say my Penny 1. That was my first ever signature shoe. Was the Penny 1.
Yeah.
The original royal black and blue with like the wing on the side. And as anyone else, it would probably have to be the Jordan 1s.
Timeless.
I wasn't a Jordan. Yeah, probably the Jordan 1s. Those are iconic, right? Those shoes are iconic. So
Yeah.
those 3 sneakers to me are
Man,
just iconic.
it's so funny. I was telling one of my good friends, Patrick, just before you came on. I said you'll never guess who we got coming on the podcast because he's a huge NBA fan, but he's a huge like '90s NBA fan, right? He's a massive fan of yours. I said Penny Hardaway. He didn't believe me first of all, and then when he finally realized that I'm not joking, first thing he says, "Oh, can you tell him to send me a pair of shoes?" I said, "I will absolutely not be doing that." But it just
Right.
goes to show like the iconic nature of the impact that your career had. And while we're talking about the impact that you've had, this show is sponsored by NBA 2K26. So many guys, when they create their My Players, they want to build a Penny Hardaway type player. And, they've included some of your signature moves and, the way that you hit certain crossovers and so on and so forth in the game. And then you've, of course, got that kind of the smee into the step back where you spin around. That's known as like the Penny Hardaway go-to shot in the game.
Yeah.
Just going into the mind of a player who's on the court, are these moves that we see on your highlight reels, are they moves that you practiced or are you just going off instinct and counters to what the defense is doing? How do you come up with these things? Because we saw you score in so many unique ways that not many other players have ever done.
Yeah, it started when I was like 8 years old in the backyard with an imagination. That's where it all
Jeez.
starts.
Wow.
You put yourself through those opportunities, and you start off with a basic cross. You start off with a basic short cross, long cross, in and out cross, all these different situations to where if you want to toy with someone, it's a longer cross. Like AI really wanted to toy with you. He had the longer cross. For me, I wanted to beat you quick, so it was a short cross. That was a la Kevin Johnson from the Phoenix Suns. Had a really short cross. Grant Hill had a skip cross that was really good, short. So when you practice all these things when you're young with a basketball, you don't know if you're ever going to do them. You're just preparing yourself, just having a basketball in your hands all day. As you get older, the instincts kick in from the work. And every move I made, I never said I was going to do it. It's just instinctually, when I put you in a situation, I tried to control the moment. And then when you reacted to my first move, I was ready to counter. And I feel like great players are ready to counter at any moment. And that's what happened with my game, from working on it and the imagination of understanding that you can do anything. I wanted to have the ball on a string, a la Kyrie Irving, Jamal Crawford, Tim Hardaway, all these guys that had it on a string. And then when I got into the situation, I learned how to shift you and counter you. And that just made a great build a player. Like, when you build a player, my player, that's what you want, a guy that can get around. When I never looked at the first person that was guarding me. I never
Always
looked
the help
I always
defense.
looked at the person behind him, because I knew I was going to beat him. I had already worked on it enough, and my instincts were good enough that I was going to get around that guy. I was always ready to get to the second guy. That's why I never missed an open man, because I was already looking at the second guy, and once I got there, I already knew what was open. So when you're seeing it that far ahead, that's just imagination plus the work.
Which defenders throughout your career gave you the most trouble, though? Who did you not want to go up against when you see them on the scouting report for the next game?
There was never anyone I didn't want to go up against, but obviously the stronger guys when I got into the league, even like Joe D, he was older then, but he understood angles. He was smart. He'd already played against MJ. I was a different task because I was 6'7" and I posted up. I wasn't really on the perimeter much. A guy, rest in peace, Bobby Fields, strong guards like him that just tried to beat me up. The real physical, strong, bodybuilder-looking guys. They used to give me problems because you can hand check. And I had to learn how to work off that and shift those guys and make them do what I wanted them to do instead of them being in control. Gary Payton was another guy. Derek Harper was another guy. He had this great move where he'd hit your hip and then tap the ball and steal your ball, like stop your momentum. The ball would come out. He'd hit the ball. He got me on that like my rookie year like 3 times. And I was like, man, these guys are great at what they do. And then obviously a guy like Muggsy Bogues that's going to press you 94 feet. I could never turn my back to him. I faced him up and just beat him off the dribble right away, got it down the court, and did what I needed to do. So my IQ helped me out with a lot of guys, but those guys gave me the most problems.
You mentioned Muggsy. What was he, 5'4"?
5'3".
5'3"?
Don't give him another inch, please don't.
Isaiah Thomas, who is as good a ball handler as we've ever seen in the league, Kyrie-like, he wouldn't even try to bring the ball up against him. He just told Joe, you bring it up. I'm not messing with this guy. I can't get it up against him.
Brendan, if you lost sight trying to back him down like how Magic used to do, he'd be taking the ball and going to lay it up. You have to just get out of your hands, or you got to go around him and get out of his way.
He was incredible, guys like that. How about Mo gave you the defensive thing, as a great offensive player and an all-star, you had to also go again. And, I always think iron sharpens iron. And also, what talent is like. The best players, guards that you ever went against that in your era.
I'd say Tim Hardaway.
Offensively. Yeah.
Guys that scored the ball, Tim Hardaway. Mitch Richmond could really score because I had to guard the 2 guards as well. Reggie Miller running off all those screens from the Davis boys.
Unbelievable.
I'm trying to think of who else.
Kobe.
Oh, yeah. Well, obviously Kobe. He was younger then, but as he got into his prime, obviously Kobe. It was more about teams back then, more so than individuals so much, but definitely Kobe for sure. I'm just trying to think of some more guys that were all-stars, guys like Terrell Brandon, who a lot of people don't really know about, that was in Cleveland. He was really good scorer. Guards didn't really try to score the ball as much back then. It was more of a 50-50 inside-outside game back in the day, unless you were MJ, Kobe, Mitch Richmond, where he needed to score in Sacramento. Those guys. Clyde Drexler, later in his career. MJ, he came back.
And you had to go against AI, obviously.
AI and Grant Hill. Those guys. Grant was a forward, but yeah, definitely AI. Because I'm trying to go through the entire league so fast, but you can never forget about AI. Obviously, he was just per size, man. He wasn't afraid of anything, and he was relentless, and he could score it. And it was so amazing because he watched the flight of his basketball. Like, guys that watch the flight of their shot and not watch the rim, that amazes me that you can make shots.
Right.
He was a guy that
Steph
never
does
watched
that
the
now.
rim
It's
when he shot.
crazy.
He watched the flight of the basketball. as small as he was. So what I tried to do to offset him was I would contest highly every single time to make him go back further because he liked to watch the flight of his ball. So that's what I would try to do to him to throw him off.
God, he was amazing.
He was
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And Larry Brown being his coach was really good for him.
Yes, it
As
was.
much as they butted heads, Larry with his way of doing things, but Larry is a great coach, as you know very well. And
Yes.
yeah, I mean, but I think sometimes that's what brought out so many times, and stuff. But let me ask you this: so, as great I've always felt that so many of the really neat players, they they really couldn't become coaches because things were sometimes came easy for them.
Mhm.
They really didn't have the patience to teach, nor the interest in it. But your IQ, uh, plus your ability to communicate and connect to the players,
Mhm.
when did it all click in for you? Were you still playing or post playing when you decided you might want to venture into coaching?
I never thought about coaching when I was playing.
I didn't think so.
After I got done playing is when I became a
You only coached me. You coached me. No,
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 it
you
was funny.
can't
It's the
coach
truth.
me.
We had an amazing relationship. He would
We
tell me
did.
what he wanted to do. I'd try to tell Chuck because Chuck was a stubborn son of a bitch. God bless him.
Yes,
He was stubborn, Chuck and I, people didn't know it. That they thought Chuck and I were totally attached to the hip. We argued like son of a bitches all the
I
time.
know it.
But it was good because we got to the right thing. But Chuck was I used to tell him he's a stubborn Irishman, and Penny would say to me, "Hey, you got to tell him to do this," which Isaiah had done, which Dumars had done,
Yep.
and everyone else. But it was beautiful. But you never thought about it while playing.
No, I never thought about it while playing. It was an unfortunate incident and situation that happened to even bring me into coaching. When I retired and came home to Memphis, and my friend had got diagnosed with colon cancer, and he
Yeah.
was the coach of our middle school team in our old neighborhood, a friend that I grew up with, and he asked me while he was going through chemo and battling colon cancer if I could help him coach, and that's the first time I ever thought about doing it.
Just to help your friend.
Just to help my friend. And it was supposed to be temporary. It wasn't supposed to be, you know, the entire time. It was just supposed to be like a little temporary stint.
And then middle school turned into AAU first
Yep. Yep.
to
And
help the
then in high
kids
school.
out, and then
Yep.
the high
And I moved
school.
with that group from middle school to high school, AAU to high school,
Amazing.
and then now obviously college.
Amazing that happened. When you got to the University of Memphis, how natural was it? Obviously, your alma mater, but how
Yeah.
natural was it? You wanted to take those high school kids, right? I remember you
Yes.
telling me, and
Yep.
and then take them up to college, right?
Well, if I could go back a little bit,
Sure,
you asking
sure.
how do you have like most great players don't have the patience nor want to or figure I don't want to do this. I think what makes a player to play the game at the highest level, I think what makes you great when you get into this field of coaching or this profession is understanding the obvious. And we have a saying here in Memphis, what's already understood doesn't have to be explained. They don't know what you know. You have to go in understanding they don't know. The guys that are hard, it's hard on them, they expect for the young men to know exactly what they know while they're coaching. It doesn't work that way. You have to have some patience. You have to wear multiple hats. You have to understand what it's all about from their level. And going through the grassroots helped me understand how to coach on this level because it's about relationships. It's about getting to know the young man. It's about giving the young man a voice because most coaches it's my way or no way. And if you do that in today's era, you lose your entire team. You have to give them a voice. You have to give them something to help them understand that it's a partnership and not a dictatorship. And that's what makes a better coach because you have to be able to teach, you have to be able to adjust, you have to be able to build relationships and make these young men feel as if they're a part of something and not just being ordered around.
Well, Coach started talking about your basketball IQ at the very top of the show. How do you try and teach that to players? Because we see young guys come into the league now just after a few months at college. They come into the NBA and then they're expected to learn complex sets, defensive schemes, so on and so forth. And a lot of coaches I've spoken to have said that some of the players really struggle with adjusting to learning everything. Not every player can be told to play one time and then go out and execute it straight away. How do you help the players that you have over at Memphis really develop their basketball IQ?
Yeah, for me, they could never have my IQ because that was God-given. God gives us all our own talents, right? That came from God to give me that IQ. And God gave them an IQ. It's just not as high as mine in the game, so I reached them where they are, wherever they are. And then you continue to watch film. You continue to hand walk them through the situations out on the court. And I think the more that they see it, because for whatever reason, guys don't think they make the mistakes that the coaches are telling them. So once you show them, it's like this aha moment, like, that was really me? Yes, that's really you right there. That starts to change the mindset, because if you just say, hey, every day after practice, we're going to watch practice, and we're going to see if you're really sprinting the way you think you're sprinting, if you're really playing hard, if you're giving multiple efforts, if you're communicating the way they're supposed to. On the offensive end, are you cutting hard enough? Are you running to the corners, deep corners like we're asking? Are you giving yourself up and sacrificing for another teammate? If you're doing all that, we'll see it tomorrow on film. And then they get in film and they're not doing it. They're going, man. Now, if they're really struggling with it, we have to figure out what role can we give you where you can be your best. Because what you're trying to do and what we're asking you to do, you haven't been able to do it. What can we get you to do to make you maximize that effort? And let's go with that.
I wanted to ask you, you've got a bunch of guys now in the NBA who were under your wing when they were at Memphis. I wanted to ask specifically about Jalen Duren, who's having a monster season for the Detroit Pistons. He looked like a monster even before the NBA draft. I know they said he was 18, 19, he looked like he was 28 coming into the NBA draft. To talk a little bit about this young man and just how talented he is, because there's a lot of people now saying he's the second coming of Dwight Howard, and how you think he can live up to those comparisons.
Yeah, I think with Jalen Duren, it was probably the easiest recruitment that I had to do, because he was such a great young man. One of the most unselfish things I've ever seen an athlete of his magnitude do was he was on the AAU team, and he was the superstar of the AAU team, and they invited Imani Bates, who was a great high school player, who was he and Jalen were both ranked number 1 and number 2 in the country. And Jalen came off the bench because the tradition of Jalen's team is to go with loyalty and all the guys that had already been there, to start them and not bring Imani in and start over the guys that had already been loyal to the program. So Jalen knew that wasn't going to sit well with Imani, because he's the number 1 player in the country. If I'm going to come to your team, I need to start. And to Imani's credit, he didn't complain or anything about it. He went to the bench, but Jalen took himself out of the lineup and came off the bench with Imani.
Wow.
Which he really did not have to do. And he did that to show Imani, we're going to do this together. We appreciate you coming, and we're going to win together. And I thought at that moment, I knew what kind of young man I was recruiting. And I was so thankful that he chose the University of Memphis, because he could have gone anywhere in the country.
He's just an amazing player, and JB Bickerstaff. And I think their whole team is coming together. Think about it, Penny. 3 years ago, they had lost 28 games in a row, that team. And now they're on the top of it. Them in Toronto, ironically, are on the top of the East, which is amazing for both franchises and stuff like that.
Yeah, and on the other side of his personality and who he is as a person, he's a winner. You're getting the guy that hates to lose. Not so much that you ask him, do you hate to lose or do you love to win? He go, I hate to lose. I'm expected to win. I know I'm supposed to win, but I hate to lose. When you get those type of guys in your program and in your organization, you're going to win.
Yeah, and that's a big thing in the pros, finding guys that love to play and love to win, as opposed to we all love paychecks, but you have to have those other things to get those things. You seem to me as a guy that you've mastered the things that are really important in coaching, the ability you have incredible competency, you have huge credibility, you're a leader, and the biggest thing is you know how to connect to people. That works in any sport, any business, but in college basketball, but also that would be the perfect thing for an NBA coach. Do you have any desires to coach? I'm not trying to get you out of Memphis at all by any means, but if I was owning a team, if I was a GM, I would try to have you as my coach. Is that ever crossed your mind?
Absolutely. To me, Brendan, that completes the cycle. Think about it. I started in middle school, AAU, high school, college, and then completing the cycle will be NBA. Wow. So I do want to coach in the NBA because of it's like you said, the connectivity of the players. I coached against or coached these guys in AAU. I resonate and identify with all of these young men, and then I'm a developer. I'm a teacher. I like to be on the floor teaching. and developing and growing guys in the film room, because there has to be on a level where everybody goes their separate ways after practice is over. You have to be able to bring that in when everybody's coming into the arena for practice. What happens outside of the arena, if you're blessed enough to have your group hang around each other in the NBA, you're a blessed individual. You're a blessed organization. But coming in, we can't be separate when we're coming into the building. And I think I'm able to do that,
That's good.
guys.
One more part of that cycle we haven't mentioned yet is you won the Olympic gold medal in '96 with Team USA. I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of the European influence in the NBA now that we have so many international stars. The last however many MVPs have all been from outside the US. And, you know, there's a big debate about American kids growing up playing AAU versus how European players develop. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I first of all, it was a blessing to be on the '96, be selected for the '96 Olympic team. Played with everybody on that team was a Hall of Famer except for myself. So it was unbelievable actually to play on that team and win a gold medal in the United States, because I was so happy. It was in Atlanta.
Yep.
And Atlanta's very close to Memphis, so my entire family got a chance to come up, all my friends.
That's
and
awesome.
It was such a special moment. The amount of European players that are in the league now that are dominating is not shocking to me, because we saw it a long time ago because of how the Europeans train. And we have not adopted that theory here in the U.S. because everybody's so singular and separate, you know, and AAU brings us together for a few weeks, but they don't practice. They rarely get practices. So how does a kid get better outside of having an individual trainer? To whereas Europe they're giving you the trainers. They're putting you in situations because they're trying to catch up to the United States, and probably in some ways surpassed, because of if you're in the gym all day, working on your skill set, working on your shooting, working on competing against one another. When you come to the United States and play in the NBA, even Luka Doncic said it's much easier here than it was where he came from. And that we're losing the battle, Brendan, from that point of view with our guys here, because we're just not enough skill. There's not enough playing basketball 5-on-5 against one another to learn how to play the game. There's so many young men behind schedule from understanding the game of basketball now more so than ever.
Penny, when I was a GM and I would go to Europe to just look at players over there for the draft, and I got to spend time with the different franchises and clubs, they basically, their rule for their junior players was 4 times as much practice as games.
Yes. Yep.
And as you mentioned, just the opposite here. And AAU, because we don't even have gym space for kids to practice in the States, which is absolutely amazing if you think about it.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I'm sure, you know, you were able to get your young kids in Memphis gym time, but most of the kids and teams that are put in with players from different states, they don't have that. And so it's a real shame. And they then play 60 and 70 games in the summer, correct?
Yes.
Some of these, yeah.
Yep.
And that's incredible. 60, 70 games, Mo, and maybe
Yep.
two or three practices maybe before you play a game.
And that's why they say the American players keep getting injured so often now when they get to the NBA. Not only because how fast the game is and the space of the floor and how much ground they have to cover, but also because they've been playing so much basketball in AAU growing up. Is that something that you would agree with, Penny?
Yeah, I spoke on this a couple weeks ago on a podcast, saying that I feel like that AAU and the amount of games, plus they're getting the personal training as well to try to get them ready to go put up numbers in AAU, because that's what you're known for in America. You want to put up numbers, scoring wise.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I can't pinpoint that's why the injuries are happening, but there are a ton of games on these young men's legs. The way that they walk around, I tell my guys they can't go on the court without a full stretch. And I was like, man, when I was 18, 19 years old, I could jump out of bed and windmill dunk the basketball, because all I did was play basketball all day, so it was natural. Now they sit around on the phones, they sit around and play these video games, and then their muscles aren't responding, and then it's like, I don't know, it's a weird situation and weird time going on right now for basketball in America. But there are a ton of games in AAU with less practices.
You have a guy in Memphis that plays for the Grizzlies, and Ja Morant, who, when he came into the league, was incredible. incredibly talented, really took the league by storm, especially with Zion being hurt in New Orleans. And then he's come into some difficulties. Observations from seeing him right in your own town and stuff.
I knew Ja was a superb athlete. I mean, there wasn't anybody per size that was as fast, as athletic as him. But what shocked me more so, Brendan, was his floor game. He actually has game. He can see. And that's the one thing I look for in guards. He can find people.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, like when he was taking the league over by storm, that some things happened to him. And, in America, you make one mistake and you'll get blackballed or you'll get shunned. You'll get a lot of things happening the opposite way because we all make mistakes. All of our mistakes aren't being published or being thrown out in the public like his. And it was a mistake, and that's something that he's never been able to regain or come back from because, he did something else and then he'll do something else. So at the end of the day, he's young. He's actually maturing as he's going through these problems. But talent-wise, there isn't another guard as talented as him. It's just he's been derailed a little bit by some of the things that's happened.
I was just hoping, being in your city, that he would kind of come and search you out for guidance and stuff, and he might have, but because you've had to the great thing about going through all the things and all the experience you've experienced a lot of stuff from injuries, etc., and you get wisdom from that and maturity and stuff, and so I just think you're an amazing resource for any young kid in your city, and I really love the player. I just hope he gets it together and stuff, and I hate to see him keep getting hurt with something, physically hurt.
Do you think guys should spend more than just 1 year at college? Now, especially they can get paid through NIL. Would you like to see players stand? Maybe you'll say yes because you're coaching them and you want to keep the guys in your team, but just in general, right? In terms of the development for someone like a Ja Morant, who you talk about, he's learning on the job, he's maturing in front of the world. Do you think it would benefit these guys like a Zion or a Ja Morant to maybe spend 2-3 years in college before making that step up to the pros?
I don't think that's necessary because, when you go, you have to go because you might sacrifice an injury and not be able to get to your goal. So I wouldn't be selfish enough to say that they need to stay 2 or 3 years because obviously they don't. But with the NIL money nowadays, they're now afforded to make just as much money staying and having an opportunity to win a championship and then make money as well. But I don't think they need to stay 2 or 3 years. I just think that, organizations, when they get these young men, they understand what they're getting. And they have to surround, from an organizational point of view, these young men with people that can help them in all areas right away.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
That's why I hang around with Coach, so he can guide me.
Hanging around a great man, he understands.
You know what I mean?
Thank God there's an ocean between us, Penny. That's all I know. And those guys say we don't read about the stuff that can happen to them. We don't read about stuff that's going on with Mo, so
thank God his coach's wife said I'm keeping him out of the club with me. So
she'd be happy if I went to a club. Jeez,
I got one last question for you, Penny, because I know you got a busy schedule. I want from you your all-time, any player who's ever played the game of basketball, your all-time starting five, the best five you could possibly put together.
It's so crazy, man. I told myself I wasn't going to do this anymore because I disrespect so many guys because there's so many greats that I would love to play with Bill Russell. But I can't pick Bill Russell over Shaq because Shaq is my guy. I would have loved to play with Kareem. I would have loved to play with Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, how would you not want to play with Oscar Robertson, right? Mm-hmm. How would you not want to play with Isaiah Thomas? How would you not want to play with all these guys? So to try to just guess five, man,
because it's not a disrespect to them. It's just a high salute to the guys you do pick.
It is. So if I had to get five, I think I picked myself, Magic, LeBron. No, I didn't. I picked myself, LeBron, Kobe, MJ, and Shaq. That's who I picked.
That's a pretty good
and
team.
Then now, I'm leaving my people out, but
no. It's
I do five at each position.
There you go.
No, I mean 5 centers, and you still leave out.
Yeah, at the rate we're going, 25
I leave
players
out
is not
David
enough.
Robinson. I leave out I do my power forwards. My God, Tim Duncan's the greatest of all time, but Karl Malone kicked my ass, and and
Right.
I'm not going to say anything about Charles Oakley, or else he'll find me and kick my ass. So,
He will.
But like
pick
the
Oak as your
NBA
first
is so
big.
crazy.
Now I'm saying he better pick Oak as his first big.
Yeah, 100%.
Over Tim Duncan.
yeah, and then I got to pick Rodman, or else he will definitely find me.
And then you forgot about Timmy already. You got Timmy, you got Dirk, you got KG, and now Giannis has come through as well. Like pretty soon,
unreal.
it's not going to be 5 each position. It's going to be like 15 at each position, and we're just going to have a never-ending list of like.
And I had Kevin McHale get 56 against my vaunted defense, and when I was in Atlanta, I had the great Larry Bird get 60 against us. 60.
They don't know,
How do
coach.
you leave Larry Bird off? How do you leave those guys?
I mean, Larry Bird was Penny. He was so good. The people will say to me, I think I coached over 3,000 NBA games, and the greatest game I ever coached was not in the NBA Finals. It was Game 7 in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Celtics, Atlanta Celtics. Dominique 49, Bird 47. I've never seen anything like it. And the score's like 128, 126. They beat us. And I've never seen anything like it. It was the most exciting thing I've ever seen.
Man,
I just
I watched that game before. Unreal.
It's unreal. And Larry Bird and Neek were just going back and forth. And and if you get to the small forwards, Dominique was so special, but Julius, and you keep Scottie Pippen. My God, Scottie Pippen. It's just it never ends.
In there, George Gervin.
My God, how about that? It's just fabulous. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's great. Penny, you're something else, man. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you guys for having me on. This was pretty cool.
We appreciate you. No, this has been an honor. It's been the highest of honors to have you on the show. Hopefully, we have you back on sometime as well.
Absolutely.
And best of luck for the rest of the season with your Memphis Tigers as well. Hope you and your family stay blessed over there on that side.
I'll have to come to the UK one day.
I was just about to say we got to bring Penny to the UK, man. Come on.
I'll tell you what. If you do, you will not believe it. It'll be like you're too young to know who the Beatles were, but the pace would be crazy if you were
the
there.
Orlando Magic are coming over in January to play against the Memphis Grizzlies. So I personally think that Mr. Penny Hardaway should be courtside for that game.
Perfect time, right?
You know what I'm saying? The Grizzlies, Memphis, and Orlando Magic. I think the story is written itself. So
sponsored by NBA 2K.
Yeah, we got to make it happen. We got to make it happen.
Well, if he doesn't have a game, we'll get the NBA to fly him out there on one of those planes, because they always want that. Wouldn't that be something? You're special. Thanks, Penny. Appreciate you so much.
You guys. I appreciate
you, Penny. Hope you guys at home enjoyed listening to this special interview. Please do subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast from. And until next time, much like the great Penny Hardaway did, get buckets.